talked quite a bit about using the muscle of Big Blue. I mean, we live in a cap world where you're restricted what you can do. So your opportunity to create competitive advantages is around non-player activity, right? Yep. Talk a little bit about some of those things that you've done to use Big Blue and how you think it's doing in terms of creating competitive advantage.
Well, first off, if you look at a couple basic decisions that were made before I got here, John Ferguson Jr. made two brilliant decisions, and he gets criticized a lot, which is unfair. He's a good man. But he made two brilliant decisions that we're the beneficiary of. One was to move our farm team here, to have the Marlies here. And the Marlies are actually having a great year. They're drawing well. It's not a profit center for us. The lease that we did to get into Rico costs us millions a year. So it's a loss leader. Where it helps us is recruiting. So we go in and sign Tyler Bozak, who's turned into a pretty good hockey player. He's a free agent, 30 teams chasing him, played at Denver University. We go in to sign him. He says, "Do you think I need time in the minors?" I said, "Well, it's up to you, but probably." And he said, "So I can rent a place in Toronto the day I get off the plane, right?" Yep. Marlies, for us. We're signing Marcel Mueller. Now, Marcel Mueller is a 6'4" left wing. Has played a couple games for the Leafs. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. But Marcel Mueller, I'm in Cologne, Germany, trying to sign him. Same with Jonas Gustafsson. I'm trying to sign Marcel Mueller. He goes, "Jesus Murphy." He said, well, he didn't say Jesus Murphy. He's German.
Jawohl.
Yeah, he said something else. Hey, am I boring you? Oh, good. Okay, good. So he said to me, he said to me, he said, I can't live in Nashville. I'm from Berlin. I'm from a city of 5 million people. I can't live in Nashville. I said, Nashville? Jesus Christ, kid. Try Binghamton. I said, you think you're ready to play in the National Hockey League? You're out of your goddamn mind. Nashville. I said, you'd kill to play in Nashville. You're going to be in Binghamton or Portland, Maine, or Manchester, New Hampshire. And he said, well, where's your farm team? I said, Toronto. He said, so I can get an apartment in Toronto the day I sign? Yep. So tremendous advantage. Second thing is MasterCard. Our practice rink is the nicest in the NHL by a mile, by a country mile. If you haven't been over there, it's an amazing facility. And then we've spent the money on scouting staff, front office. Our front office staff is deeper and more talented than most teams can dream about with Dave Nonis, Dave Poulin, and Claude Loisel. All of those guys are going to be, Dave Nonis has already been a general manager. All three of those guys will be GM someday. And then on our scouting staff, we have the largest scouting staff of any team in hockey. Player development on most teams. So you draft a kid, he's playing for London or he's playing for Kelowna. Someone's got to go watch him play. So he's got to go back. You draft a junior player, he's got to go back as an 18-year-old, got to go back as a 19-year-old. He can't play in the American League. So he's got to make your big club or he's got to go back to junior. So someone's got to go watch this kid. He's in your organization. You got to decide whether you want to sign him or not. Someone's got to tell him what he's doing right, doing wrong. You draft a college kid. Tyler Biggs, our first-round pick. He's at Miami University. Okay, Stuart Percy, our other first-round pick. He's playing for Mississauga St. Michael's. Someone's got to go watch those kids play and talk to them. You got to do this, different, that. Player development. Most teams have one player development guy. And he scouts. So he does some player development and he scouts. We have two full-time player development guys. So we have tried to use our muscle where we can use it.
So we'll try and do this one quickly so we can open things up for questions here. You said the secret to winning in pro sports is focusing on your team and how individual players fit within your team. How did you know Dion Phaneuf would be a fit for you from afar?
Well, the best example I can give to the group is think back to, in recent memory, think back to the U.S. Olympic team that won a silver medal. Okay, now, go back and read. Sean, where'd you have that team picked? We got a couple members of the media here. Where'd you pick the U.S. team to finish? No. The goddamn... Yeah, what do you think I'm talking about?
Spengler Cup.
What's that? Second?
Yeah.
You lying bastard. National Post writer here. So you go back and look. Like this is, I think it's important, is we announced that, you remember they had the Winter Classic at Fenway Park with the Flyers and the Bruins, and we announced the U.S. Olympic team at Fenway Park right after the game. Go read the newspaper accounts on January 2nd. We got killed for the team we picked. Absolutely hammered. Why didn't you take this guy? Why didn't you take Scott Gomez? Why didn't you take Mike Modano? Why didn't you take this guy? Why didn't you take R.J. Umberger? And I got asked at the press conference. I'm sitting there, and they said, why are you taking Chris Drury? You know, he was hurt, struggling. And I said, well, we're taking Chris Drury because he's Chris Drury. Like, to me, it was obvious. I couldn't believe it that someone was questioning that. Chris Drury, all he's ever done in his life is win. And he turned out to be one of the most important players on that team. But we knew if we took the 20 best players, Canada would kick the living shit out of us. We don't have 20 players as good as Canada. We know that. Russia would have kicked the shit out of us if they'd managed to get past Canada and play us, but we never saw them. So we were like, okay, guys, if we can't beat Canada's 20 best, how are we going to beat them? And the only way is, Canada has always said in those tournaments, okay, Jerome McGinley, you're a first-line right wing on the Calgary Flames, but in this tournament, you're going to play a third-line right wing, you're going to check people. And those players have always instantly said yes and done it well. I'm going to bring a guy who checks better than he does. I'm bringing Ryan Callahan. So our whole thing was, let's do top 6, bottom 6. Let's have role players. Let's have plumbers and carpenters. And they're going to have artists that are doing the plumber job, but we're going to have a plumber do that job. So we got killed for taking this team, absolutely lambasted for it. And then you see, so that's what I talk about is, it's not necessarily who has the 20 best players. I don't think we had the 20 best players the year we won the Stanley Cup. I think Detroit did. But I think we had a better team.